Today, I'm going to talk about what I consider to be the most important topic for every real estate agent, which is generating consistent seller appointments. In fact, when people are trying to become great agents and they're trying to build their business, I would argue that if the only skill you learned was how to generate seller opportunities on a consistent basis, you would need to know very little of anything else. Because if you're able to generate face-to-face seller appointments and you partner with our team or you work with somebody else, you can always have somebody else help you with everything else. So if you become a master at seller appointment generation, you will grow a great business. So when we're talking about generating seller appointments, what I would track and measure, and the concept I would like everybody to think about, is how many impressions are you getting where people know that you're looking for a seller appointment? Now, the methods I'm going to talk about in a second, but the methods are almost irrelevant because whether you're, using social media or whether you're mailing or whether you're calling or texting or door knocking or, whatever you're doing to generate opportunities, whether you're networking in person, it comes down to how many impressions or how many people have seen your message, right? So then it becomes, if we know that and we understand that, then we'll be able to track how many impressions on a week-to-week basis we want to have. And then we have to determine what strategies we're going to use in order to get them. And let me define what I would call like an impression, right? So an impression doesn't mean that you have this lengthy conversation with somebody or an appointment. It just means how many attempts did you have to try to talk to somebody, to try to mail somebody, to try to text message somebody, to try to email somebody, to try to post on social media. So what I would define as an impression, and we're just talking high level here, all of these things I would say are one impression. One call is one impression. One text is one impression. One letter is one impression. One door hanger is one impression. If you post on social media and you use your account correctly, you'll be able to see how many people saw it. If 50 people saw it, that's 50 impressions. If you made 50 calls, that's 50 impressions. So all that I would be looking to do on a weekly basis, if I'm tracking and I'm saying generating seller appointments is the most important thing that I can be possibly doing, I want to make sure that I am trying to get as many impressions as possible based on the resources that I have. So most of you know I've got a pretty big marketing budget when it comes to finding sellers. I do a lot of things like Google pay-per-click, Facebook ads, mailer, stuff like that. So because my business is at a point where I can spend money, I can basically pay for impressions. Like I can pay for people to see. And that goes back to the resources that I talked about. Depending on who you are, how much money you have, how much money you want to invest, you may have to sweat equity impressions, or you may be able to pay for impressions, or you might be able to do a combination of the two, right? You might be able to send out 50 letters and make 50 phone calls. That's 100 impressions. So every week I would look to say, how many impressions do I have? And then I would try to get a ratio of how many seller appointments I've gotten. So with the impression model that I'm talking about, or the theory I'm talking about, I want to talk just about like the mistakes that people tend to make, especially when it comes to finding, flip opportunities. A lot of people think incorrectly or are told incorrectly that it is all about like research and data and like driving around looking for beat up houses. And I always, hammer this point home anytime I talk to anybody about finding deals or seller appointments. I'll say to somebody, they'll say, well, I have this property that I drive by every day that has a bad roof and it looks abandoned and blah, 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 blah. And, they tell me the whole song and dance. And I'll say, have you contacted them? No. So you have 0 impressions, right? So how do you get 1,000 impressions? Well, what's the quickest way to get 1,000 impressions? It is definitely not to drive around, look up for beat up houses, do a bunch of research on a house, maybe skip trace the phone number, maybe door knock it, or maybe just talk about that property for the next 3 months. It is to actually do the activities to try and communicate with these people. And again, that can be a lot of variety of different ways. It can be social media, text, call, email. It can be phone. It can be mailers. It can be pay-per-click. It could be Facebook ads, whatever it is. But what you want to focus on is those impressions. Like how many people have seen my message in a month, billboards, whatever you're talking about doing. So when I'm thinking about that, the first thing I always think about is like, do you want to spend time or money? Okay. If we're talking about impressions, how do you want to spend it? Time or money? So, if you've got, 500-600 bucks in a month, you can send out, 1,000 letters or 1,000 postcards. And that gets you a guaranteed, 1,000 impressions in a month. Right. And do the math on whether that's Facebook when you're boosting an ad and you're getting impressions there. At Google pay-per-click, you can see how many people looked at your ad or clicked on your ad, etc. You can track impressions that way. Or again, whether it be that you're forcing them through sweat equity. So the first thing I would always think about when it comes to generating seller appointments is like, am I going to invest any money? And when I started, me personally, I had no money to invest. So it wasn't really an option, for me to spend money. So I had to spend time. But I do want to mention that if you've got a marketing budget of potentially $1,000 or more per month, you might want to consider spending a little bit of money to do this. If you're not sure how you should spend your money, again, make sure you jump on my next agent partnership call and ask me these questions. It's a live call. You can do that at www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. And it's live again, so it's interactive and it's free, so you can jump on it. And I do those calls because selfishly, I'll just put it out there. I'm averaging doing one agent partnership deal per week right now. I want to do two. So I'm helping teach and train agents on how to find deals, knowing that a certain percentage of those deals that get found are going to be funneled back to me. You can jump on those calls and you don't have to funnel any deals back to me if it doesn't make sense for you. But, if you do, I'd be, thankful and happy and all that good stuff. So again, getting back to time versus money, I talked a little bit about spending time. I'm spending money and all of those metrics that I tracked on how you spend money. Again, whether it's a billboard, whether it's a letter, whether it's Google pay-per-click, whether it's Facebook, all of those metrics are tracked via impressions. X amount of impressions is going to translate into an appointment. The good thing about spending money, there's pluses and minuses of spending marketing dollars. The plus is that you can just cut the check and the impressions basically automatically happen. The simple thing that I mentioned about having a billboard, which by the way, I don't recommend doing for most people, you're going to get metrics from the billboard companies on how many impressions that you're going to get on a weekly basis. And all you have to do is cut the check and you're going to get those impressions. So it's very automatic. And one very important thing about this when it comes to generating seller appointments is that you need consistency. So it's a lot easier to be consistent by spending money versus by spending time, right? Because if you put up a billboard, that billboard's up. It's very passive, right? When you spend money to generate seller opportunities, it's a very passive thing to do. However, again, the negative of it is you're spending money, which some people don't have, or some people don't have enough of, or some people just say, I'd rather sweat equity at first. So then it comes to, okay, if you don't want to spend money or you want to spend money and time, let's talk about how to generate this stuff via time. Now, if you're going to generate seller appointments via time, again, number one thing that you need to do is be consistent. Easier said than done. Consistency is a very rare skill in the business world. It's probably the most important skill there is. It's one of the most important skills in life is to be consistent. So you've got to figure out what strategy are you going to employ that you can be consistent with. For example, if you know that cold calling is going to make you into like a psych patient And every single day you're going to be trembling and you're not going to be able to face your fears and you're going to spend all day putting it off and you're never going to really make any calls, like, don't use that as a strategy. There are a million and one ways to generate these types of seller appointments in a week. That what I would figure out is what is the strategy that not that you're going to love, right? You're not going to love sweat equity seller appointments, but which is the one that you're willing to do every day and you're able to do every day. When I say every day, it should be most days, right? It should be 3 to 6 days a week. And I would say 3 is like the very low level mark that I might consider only if you're part time. Like if you guys are in this business as an agent and you want to also flip homes and build wealth, every other thing that you're doing is going to pale in comparison to generating seller appointments. I know I mentioned that in the beginning at length, but like there can be no other excuse. Like you can't tell me you had to answer a damn email first. No, like your business and your net worth will grow based on how many seller opportunities that you're generating a week. How do you come across these 2 to 4 deals that might be hitting in plain sight? The first one is your very own listing appointments, right? So how could you potentially miss this type of opportunity on your own listing appointment? Well, there could actually be a lot of ways that you might miss this type of opportunity on your own listing appointment. The most common one is that the agent makes an assumption that a seller may not be interested in a cash offer, which, our company goes on over 100 seller appointments per week. And in addition to going over 100 of our own appointments per week, we go on appointments with agents as well. And I can tell you so many different stories of sellers who I misjudged, who I thought might not be interested in a cash offer, that have converted into a cash offer deal. And one of the previous episodes, I talked about all the different reasons why sellers may be interested in getting an easier sales process, not necessarily putting their house on the market and just getting a guaranteed number and a guaranteed sales date. But overlooking your own appointments is probably the number one reason why agents do not come across as many opportunities as they think. So within that, my advice to you is to look at this kind of a little bit differently. Rather than you trying to determine what your seller wants or getting some sort of idea of what they may want before going on the appointment, my advice is to always give both options, right? There is absolutely nothing wrong with giving a cash offer. In fact, if you present it the right way, you should actually be giving the seller more value, right? Because you are an agent with investor resources who can sell your client's house. You can get it on the market. You can make sure that it's in great condition. It has beautiful pictures. It has open houses. It attracts the most amount of buyers. You can promote the heck out of it. And that process, which is going to be a little bit harder for you and a little bit harder for the seller, is almost always going to produce the highest net dollar amount. But by offering them this other alternative where they're not going to have to get the house ready for sale, they're not going to have to fix anything, they're not going to have open houses, they're going to be able to pick their own closing date, you're giving them a second option that they can choose whether or not they value an easier sales process, right? So you're not going in there, making a predetermined, decision. And the other thing I want to just say about your own listing appointments that can come to fruition, and if you've been an agent for long enough, you've kind of seen this. There are times when a client seller decides that they want to put their property on the market. They want to get their home ready for sale. They want to try to bid it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. 80 to 90% of all sellers are going to want to go that route. But then they get to a point in a transaction where maybe they had a tough inspection, or maybe they got tired of waiting for an offer, where they then decide, hey, you know what? I might be more interested in this cash offer. And if you don't present that as an option out of the gate, they kind of don't even know that it exists. So as you probably all know, I've said this time and time again, like we will go on face-to-face seller appointments with agents. We'll go on any seller appointment with an agent as long as it's in New England. We do buy houses all across the country, but specifically in New England, if you have an appointment where a seller is willing to meet and at least entertain an offer, doesn't mean they have to take our offer, but if they want to just know what a cash offer might look like. And by the way, almost every seller does want to know that. They want to know, like, hey, if a cash offer buyer comes out and they make me an offer and I don't have to pay a commission, or maybe I do pay a commission or a smaller commission or a discounted commission, and I don't have to get my house ready and I don't have to deal with inspections and I don't have to have an open house sign out in front of my house. Yeah, I would like to know, what that number would look like. Why not? Right? So done the right way, and we go on a ton of these appointments every week. Your own listing appointments can be a source for a lot of agents of getting maybe one, maybe two deals per year. But if you're only presenting the cash offer to a small fraction of your clients, you're going to miss out on some that you may have misjudged. And it's easy to misjudge. And I've told tons of stories on sellers that I thought, in my opinion, why would you take a cash offer, but they ended up taking it? Okay. So that's number one, hitting in plain sight. Number two, co-broks. Okay. So other agents, when it comes to finding deals, can absolutely be your biggest resource. Hey guys, there's a reason why the name of our brand is Agent Investor, right? Agents are my best friends when it comes to getting deals, right? It's why I'm talking right now, literally why I'm recording this right now. But you guys have tons of co-broke and other agent relationships that I don't have. I only scratched the surface. I would love it if every agent in the United States knew about me, knew who I was, and would contact me anytime they have a deal. The reality is that I don't, and I won't, and I never will, right? I've got a very small market share of agents who know who I am, know what I do, and will reach out to me when they have a deal. You are also in that same position, right? You're also in that same position, especially if you do a lot of transactions or you've been in the business for a while, where having these conversations with other agents is going to bring you deals. How many will it bring you in a year? Hard to say. You might get one deal a year just by talking to other co-broks about what you're looking for. And, the other part of this isn't just, telling them, but what is in it for them? Like, what's the benefit? Like, if you talk to a co-broke, you're working on a deal, a traditional retail deal, what is the reason why a co-broke might want to bring you an investment opportunity? Well, there can be many ways that you can work out, a beneficial deal for them. But in most cases, the two biggest benefits that they're going to get, if they go on a listing appointment and they come across a house that looks like it's a good fix and flip candidate, the most obvious two reasons for them to reach out to you rather than to reach out to somebody else is, number one, you're not going to co-broke the deal. At least I would encourage you to not co-broke the deal. And that agent gets the full 3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever they were charging for the listing, right? The second thing that agent gets, that co-broke, that agent that gets, is that they don't have to take the property to market, right? So they avoid a lot of the same hustle and bustle that the seller might be looking to avoid. They don't have to get the house, set up. They don't have to host open houses. They don't have to, deal with offers and, multiple different agents. It's a seamless transaction for them. And then for their client, if they want a guaranteed sale, and I'll try to be, as I'll try to be as nice about this as I can, but why would they want to try to sell it to another investor when we're the most guaranteed investor that they could sell to, especially in New England, right? So if you think about that, they put the property on the MLS. Our offer is probably going to be similar to another investor. Well, what investor do you want to sell to? What investor would that seller want to sell to? Is it an investor who maybe is trying to do their first fix and flip, or an investor like us, who's the biggest fix and flip company in New England, who's fixed and flipped over 1,500 houses, right? So it's in their client's best interest as well, okay? So again, we're talking about how to find deals in plain sight, right? Opening up conversations with co-bros. We talked about your own listing appointments. Number three is your social media. Okay. So I know that not every agent does a great job at this. I try to do a pretty good job at this myself. I'm not perfect at it, but if you go to my personal Facebook account, which you can go to at Tommy Caffarella, if you want to kind of see what I do to try to find deals, go to TOMMY and then my last name, CAFARELLA. I would suggest you follow me anyways if you're interested in this stuff. I post a lot of content, agent investor related content anyways. But take a look down my profile and how much I'm posting about looking for deals, how much I'm posting about this stuff. Do you know? Yeah, I'm an agent myself. I'm a broker owner. But do you know that I'm an investor looking for fix and flip opportunities? And I know for a lot of people, they struggle with this. They don't post as much as they want to. They don't add as many people to their network as they want to. And this should be done no matter what. Like if you're a real estate agent, if you're in sales, forget about whether or not you want to find fix and flip opportunities. You need to be growing your social media account every day. The number one social media account to grow in 2024 is Facebook. Has the most eyeballs on it, is, in my opinion, the best one to use. If another, platform is working better for you, use that. But I think Facebook personally is the best. By, utilizing Facebook every day, Facebook will allow you to add 20, 25 friends a day. In 2024, there's no reason why you shouldn't have 5,000 friends within a short period of time, right? So if you do the math, let's say that Facebook allows you to add 25 people a day. Within a year, you should have close to 5,000 friends. And, who you pick to add, that's a different conversation. That's based on your own strategy. I know for me, when I look to add agents, I'm looking to add top producing agents that have a lot of listings in my market. That's my target. For you, whoever that is, could be a little bit different. But if you are not adding 15 or 20 people a day to your social media account and then posting 2 or 3 times per week on your social media account, you're probably missing at least one deal per year. I mean, that's probably, if I'm really being honest with you, that's probably my number one lead generation source. People see my content on Facebook. Yeah, somebody might find it annoying, and I sometimes find it annoying that I have to post as much as I do. But for those that find it annoying, maybe they unfollow me, but I keep adding more people. More people see my message. And then eventually, when somebody comes across a great opportunity, I hope that they reach out to me. Let's talk about the ways now in which we can generate these opportunities. These are in no particular order, but these are how I've used virtual assistants to generate fix and flip opportunities and seller appointments. Okay. All right. So one I want to start with is text messaging. And now I'm going to talk about text messaging and calls. And I just want to say with both of them, you have to make sure that you're doing this compliantly. There has been a lot of lawsuits and there have been a lot of issues that people have had when they're not following the Telephone Consumer Protection Act guideline. So I'm putting this out there because what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to do a bunch of illegal stuff, get into trouble, and then have an issue. So I would say both with texting and with calling, you just need to make sure that when somebody's texting or when somebody's calling, that you're doing it compliantly. I don't have, a couple hours it's going to take to talk about that, but there are ways to do it and ways not to. So texting and calling, are kind of like one and the same, right? You're reaching out to people, seeing if they'd ever consider, a cash offer on their property. If you've ever considered selling, we should consider an offer. I've been doing the cash offer call to action for years. It works far better than a listing, call to action. If you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, like I want to list your house, the probability of you getting an appointment goes way down because most people know an agent, but most people don't know what a cash offer would look like. So we get appointments every single week. where we meet with the person, we get in the door, and they kind of know an agent, but then we end up listing their house anyways because they were interested in the cash offer. So the scripting on it is definitely pretty simple, we're a home buying company that's in your area. We're looking to buy properties. Would you ever consider an offer on your house at, now or at any point in the future? Keeping it really simple. This is not a script class, but that's what you're going to be doing when you're calling or texting. And like I mentioned, a few minutes ago, if you're going to hire somebody to have those conversations, I want somebody that has lived in the United States. It doesn't have to be Mexico. I mentioned Mexico as kind of like, where we hire from, but somebody that speaks good English, even if they're texting, right, has good grammar, clearly appears that they are from, the United States, because, especially when it comes to a random message or a random call, the biggest fear that people have is that something is a scam. And when it comes to the cash offer business and a we buy houses type business, for whatever reason, our business has the connotation like that it is a scam. I don't even know why, but it definitely has that. So you don't want to heighten that thought by hiring somebody who, like we've had people in the Philippines sending text messages or making calls, and you can just tell by, the way that they might mention a street or the way that they might refer to a house, that they don't live in the US. So you want somebody that's lived in the US that can talk not just English, but talk as though they have lived in the US. Okay. So when you're talking about text messaging, there's a bunch of different programs. The one that I have used in the past is called Lead Sherpa. There's a million others, and Lead Sherpa helps you do text messaging compliantly. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to pull records. It allows you to send out a bunch of messages compliantly, basically saying, hey, are you interested in selling your house? And then you're going to have that person work the responses and kick the leads up to you. So again, like, why do we need virtual assistants in this case? Well, we don't need them. You, as a US-based person, could do this work yourself. But the problem is that you need to do it every day. So if you're going to use text messaging or anything that I talk about today as a proactive approach to do it, like, you've got to do it every day. What virtual assistants are really good at is sitting at a desk and doing tasks, right? So when you're out on the road meeting with sellers, signing somebody's yard, signing an acquisition deal, checking out your most recent investment property, you're not doing those daily activities. Okay. Now let me flip it to cold calling, which again, you've got to do it compliantly. It's a similar type thing. I would definitely recommend having someone make calls that has lived in the United States. And again, you're going to go through a list, you're going to build your database, and you're going to be calling through whatever targeted records you want over and over again, asking the same question. Now, where this is important and where I've screwed up and I've seen other people screw up is like trying to really get the virtual assistant to like do everything from intro to book an appointment, where I believe that the better method here is to just focus on them making a bunch of calls and really sending the people to you that are interested in having a conversation. Now, they're not going to find a million people a day that are interested in having this conversation. But where I've seen a little bit of an issue is somebody basically having VAs, make these calls and set the appointment. And then there was just a lot lost in translation. So what I'm really looking for a virtual assistant to do if they're making a phone call is just to find somebody who like is willing to be like, yeah, I'd consider it. Okay, great. Like, I'm just I'm the intro person that's making these phone calls. I'm going to introduce you to somebody on my team who can have a much better conversation. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with that person, saying that they're not, nearby, right? But you want to stress that that person is going to be put in touch with you or somebody from your sales team that's a local area expert. Okay. So when it comes to calling, that's kind of the way I would do that. And again, I could do a whole class on texting or calling, but I'm giving you guys some ideas. And what I said in the beginning is utilize one of these. Go down the rabbit hole with one of these. If you're going to send text messages, go down the rabbit hole of how to do that. You're going to make calls, go down the rabbit hole of how to do that. All right. The next one is auctions. And this is just another way that, you can buy properties. If you've ever kind of gone to auctions or bought properties at auctions in the past, you'll know that there's a lot of organization that goes into figuring out what appointments are happening which day. And at least like in Massachusetts where I live, there are probably 10 or 15 auction websites every single day that you kind of need to scour through and manage a Google sheet to say what appointments happening on which day and what company and how much of a deposit do you need. So when it comes to looking for auctions to go to, let me back up for a second. If you want to buy houses at auction, you need to go to a lot of them, because a lot of times you show up at an auction gets canceled, bank buys the property back, you get outbid. So you've got to have it in your head that you're at least going to hit, call it like 10 in a week. So which 10 do you hit, and how do you like structure that? Well, the way I would do it with the VA is I would say, and I used to do this, and I'm happy to share some of my auction spreadsheets with people that I used to create when we used to buy at auction. They would send me a spreadsheet every single day, basically listing out where the auctions were. And I would look at them typically the night before, like where they were, where I'd have to be, how to manage it, logistically, so that again, you as the busy salesperson are not having to do that admin work. And the other reason I like it is I use a VA sending me the auction spreadsheet as like a reminder to me. Like, hey, you've got to go to auctions tomorrow. Here are the 4 or 5 that you could potentially attend. If it hasn't kind of come through already, a lot of what I'm utilizing virtual assistants for is the consistency of which the administrative work gets done. Like on a text message, like I'm not saying, I don't believe that like the VA should do a lot of the conversation, but they should be doing a lot of the admin to get a response that, yes, I'm interested. The calls, the response, the person on the other end to say, yes, I'm interested. The auctions, like, which one should I go to? Okay. And they're doing it repetitively on a day-to-day basis. And it's like an email, right? When we're in sales, we're agents. We're all good at responding to texts. We're all good at responding to emails. It's like what we do. Like we live in a reactionary thing. So you're having the virtual assistant do the proactive part, and then you're reacting to what they're doing, if that makes sense. On to the next thing. All right, MLS. So most of you know I'm not a big proponent of buying properties on the MLS. I don't partner on deals that are on the MLS. I don't know that I've even bought a deal on the MLS in the last 5 or 6 years. But I do know that there are some people on here who do it. And so when you could buy properties on the MLS and it was a lot easier, I would utilize virtual assistants, and I've got another spreadsheet for this, where virtual assistants would plug in the properties that they thought were good opportunities for me to look at, and also what my offer might be. They would calculate out the ARV, and they would look and they would put kind of an offer into the spreadsheet. Now, again, how am I utilizing this? I'm utilizing this not for them to send the offer, because that's probably not going to be a great way to get a deal done, but maybe to write up an offer and maybe to find the properties that I think would be good to make offers on. And now I've got that. Like I've got an offer. If I review it and I think it's low or too high, I might make an adjustment. But I'm utilizing them to write offers and to organize the properties that I should probably be making offers on based on the rules that I've given them.